Well, good afternoon, everybody. We have a very intimate gathering here in this room. Hopefully you can hear and see me well. My name is Joe Macri, and I'm responsible for our public sector business in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I'm going to be joined by Ian Smith of Bupa to share his story. And really, the objective of this presentation and this discussion, and actually given the size of the room, but the number of people, if you have any questions or comments, you should feel very comfortable in shouting. I think there's going to be a mic, so let's make this a high-value session for you, please. But really the intention of this discussion is to share with you some of our experiences across the region around how we improve engagement with citizens using technology in a world that we know is changing and challenging. A little bit about myself. I've been with Microsoft for 20 years in various roles, and for the past 4 years, I've been responsible for our public sector business in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And as part of that, I get this great opportunity to meet with government clients across the region, learn from them, but also share with them some of the stories and learnings that we've had across the region. So I'm going to use the first 10 or so minutes just to set the scene in terms of some of the key themes that we're seeing across the region. And then I'll be joined by Ian, who will share a much more in-depth story about the journey. A little bit about Microsoft and public sector. If you're not familiar, we're focused in 4 key areas. We work with both providers and payers in the health space, and clearly Bupa is an example of that. But we also work in education, public safety, and of course working with local and national government entities. And you should have heard, I think you would have heard from Jean-Philippe Courtois' keynote on Monday about the transformation that Microsoft is going through, and specifically our mission, which is around empowering every individual and every organization to achieve more. And when I share that mission with government leaders across the region, it really does resonate, because when you think about the role of government, it's about serving every citizen and every business in your respective countries. That could be a health outcome, educational, social, housing, economic, educational, whatever the outcome is, but the goal or the ambition is the same. So there's a lot of common thoughts on that topic. And when we think about the context in which we're operating, I'm not going to labor the geopolitical challenges that many countries are facing. They're clearly factors. Equally, I'm not going to focus on the economic challenges and transformations that are happening in this context. That, I think, is well documented, and you don't need somebody from Microsoft telling you about that. But what I will focus on is the changing landscape of the technology. Because technology is going through a transformation, not Microsoft, but technology. This is a whole industry event. Microsoft as an organization is 40 years old, just gone beyond midlife crisis, I think. It feels like we've just come out of midlife crisis and we're finding ourselves with our new CEO. But the world has changed dramatically from where we started with the initial vision of a PC on every desk to the rise of the internet. And now into this new world that we call the mobile-first, cloud-first world. And if you've heard that, you've probably heard that many times. And you might sort of ask yourself the question, how can two things be first? And the answer is they're symbiotic. There's no use having a wonderful data center if you don't have devices that are connected to individuals that use those services and that data. Equally, no matter how beautiful the smartphone is, and some of them are really, really beautiful, they're of no use if there's not a cloud service powering that experience. And so when we think about the mobility, we're not thinking about the device when we say this. We're thinking about the mobility of the experience the citizen is having, the experience the business is having with the agency is really what we're focused on in this world. And so this quote around governments need to redesign their structures and processes and new actors, hopefully from Ian's presentation you'll get a good sense of Bupa is not a government, they're a private enterprise involved in health provision or the payee side. But they've gone through some re-engineering of processes, and so you'll see this theme emerging. But as I said at the start, I've had the opportunity to meet with many government leaders across the region. And I've heard many stories. I've experienced some interesting discussions, and we've been involved in many projects, as you can imagine. But if I had to distill the three most common themes that emerge from those discussions, it would be these three. What's really interesting, against all these geopolitical, economic, and technological change, expectations are going up, not down. Citizens aren't saying, hey, we understand government agency, you've got less money, so we will expect less, right? They're saying quite the opposite. They're expecting more. And when we think about citizen engagement with technology, we know where we started. It started with the website. Every agency, every department, every organization had a website. And that was interesting, but really didn't hit the need. Then we moved to this notion of a government gateway, the notion of the one-stop shop. And many governments across the region have done that. And that, I think, has improved citizen engagement. But today, the most exciting projects we're working on is that we're working with citizen engagement, where the engagement is on the citizens' terms, their personalized services, and it's independent of their form of communication. The form of communication could still be walking into the branch of the government department, the telephone, of course the mobile device or the web browser. But the trick is, how do we create a seamless engagement for the citizen against that history? And there's some exciting projects that we've been working on that I'll share with you. So that, and when I say citizen, I'm also thinking about patients, I'm thinking about teachers, I'm also thinking about the broader population, so it's not just that. And it's also about businesses as well. The second key area is the government workers, the public sector workers. Their expectations are increasing in serving the needs of the citizens. And again, the role of technology has changed from traditional data processing to where we are today, where it's about how do we help individuals and teams collaborate, communicate, and connect. And specifically when I say connect, I mean in a social context. And I'm not talking about Facebook or Twitter, I'm talking about enterprise social. How do we enable those individuals to communicate, collaborate, and connect within their organization, but more importantly, across organizations? And as you know, this is one of the biggest challenges we face in most organizations around the world. So their expectations are also increasing in terms of anytime, anywhere, their own personal device. As I mentioned before, mobility is about the experience. And again, we've got some really exciting projects, of which we'll share just one or two in a moment. And then the third, and arguably the most important, and I'm not being hierarchical by saying leaders are more important. What I'm trying to say here is what's most important here is that leaders in your organization, you as leaders, other leaders, have access to the right information, the right insight at the right time. In a previous role at Microsoft, I was the country manager for Microsoft in Ireland, and I sat on a number of boards, including the Health Service Board in Ireland. And it was a large organization. The health budget in that country was about $13 billion, billion euros. And we had a monthly board meeting, and my briefing pack was this thick of paper. And it arrived in the post. And I'm not being disrespectful to that agency. You're smiling, right? I think we've all experienced this. And it was data, and it was out of date. And so as a board member, I felt exposed, right? I wasn't sure, were these guys just feeding me stuff that I wouldn't read? Am I getting the right stuff? Is it real? Is it up to date? And this is an issue, again, I'm seeing some nods that we've all experienced. And so leaders need not data. Actually, they don't even need information. They need actionable insight. And that insight, more and more, needs to be predictive, not historical. And again, we're working with a number of governments that really says, how do we enable this world where leaders have access to actionable insight to help their public sector workers better serve citizens and governments? So let me just pause there, and I'm getting some nods, but does everybody recognize these three? Are these common themes that you're okay? Are there any others that I've missed, or have I done a good job? We always like three things. Our CEO has three strategies. I've got three priorities. I've only got one wife, though, but three children, so we like the number three. But hopefully they resonate. They resonate. Okay. So before I hand over to Ian, let me just share a couple of stories and some interesting stories. And I have to start with Barcelona because that's where we are. We've been working with the city of Barcelona for quite a few years now, and I think they presented at the first convergence here in Barcelona a couple of years ago. But their story is an interesting story. Their mayor and then the CEO team that supports him wanted to really understand government effectiveness and say, do we have access to the right insight to make the right decisions around not only the people who live in the city, the businesses that do business in the city, but of course, as importantly, the visitors, such as many as ourselves, that are visiting the city. Are we effective in that engagement? And so we've been working with a partner and the mayor's office in building a mayor's dashboard. And basically what it's done is collect structured data from traditional IT systems with unstructured data from real-time live feeds, for example, data coming from sensors in the streets, cameras, all the information that's coming in an unstructured way, and then, of course, social. Commentary being made about Barcelona, what's going on, events, whatever, and bring that together into one place. And you see the quote there, so I won't bother quoting Manuel there, but very much they're seeing that they're making a difference in helping the collaboration, as they call it, between the government and the city and the citizen or the business that's in that. So it's a great story, and one we should spend lots of money whilst we're here in Barcelona and contribute to the local economy. I'm sure many of you have done that already. It's a great city, and I think, as you know, they had the Smart City Expo here 2 weeks ago, and they obviously have the Mobile World Congress. They're a very progressive city in terms of engagement. The second example is the Hamburg Port Authority. I was told it was the second largest port in Europe. I did a quick search this morning. The search told me it was third. They're one of the top three ports in Europe. And if you've been to Hamburg, I have. It's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful city. But the port is extremely constrained in terms of space, where it is. Its physical location. For the second or third largest port in Europe, it's a really constrained bit of space. And so their challenge was different. Their challenge was, how do we better listen? How do we listen better to citizens and businesses in our immediate area? Because we're very conscious about the port's impact on the environment and on the living standards of the city, and wanted to find a better way of engaging with the community as a whole. And so we've been working with them for a couple of years, again, specifically on social engagement tools, to enable, and as the Chief Digital Officer claims, that's, again, his words, smarter decisions based on that information. So again, engaging with the citizen, making better decisions with public sector workers. And then the final city is the City of London, which of course needs no introduction. By the way, my accent might fool you, I'm Australian, not English. And I grew up in the city of Sydney, another great city. But the City of London is a really interesting story in its own right. You all know London, you've probably all visited there, some of you might even live there. What you probably don't know is they have 19 different departments. And I have to be respectful, this is their brief, that until recently just weren't working together in serving residents of the city, businesses in the city, and of course commuters. I think it's like 300,000 commuters a day come into the city, so the population swells dramatically every day, not to mention all the tourists that visit the city. And these 19 departments had disparate systems that didn't talk to each other, and so the engagement there with citizens have been quite sporadic. And so again, we've been working with them for a couple of years, and using the CRM system, they've put the individual, the citizen, at the center of those 19 departments, and they're collaborating the systems. And this is maybe a theme you'll hear from Ian's presentation in a moment. So there's just 3 stories, just to whet the appetite, if that's the right way of putting it, to give you a sense of how we're thinking about improving engagement with businesses and individuals in respective countries. But as I mentioned, I'm the preamble, so I'll get off the stage. And again, let me just introduce Ian from Bupa, who's going to share with you their journey and their story. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. Afternoon, everybody. As Joe said, my name is Ian Smith. I'm the CRM Enterprise Architect at Bupa. My role within Bupa is to run our CRM Centre of Excellence, and I'm responsible for all of the technical deliveries across all of our sales, service and marketing departments within Bupa UK. and work globally with Bupa as well to deliver and help other market units within our organisation to deliver similar strategies. The next few slides I'm going to go through is giving you a bit of background about the last 3 to 4 years at Bupa and how we have our 2020 vision to put the customer at the centre of what we do. So the first slide I'm going to go through is how IT change was really driven by this business need to change, and that 4 years ago, this sort of disc we have on the left-hand side it's not the actual diagram, but our strategy for our 2020 vision was built around our 3 pillars to success, basically reaching out to our customers, and all of our company objectives are based around that model. That drove some IT change requirements around things like a standardized platform to support our sales, service and marketing processes teams, an integrated single customer view. So where we've come from in our IT infrastructure was very siloed product-based applications. So we have, we've got our PMI solution, which is managing our patients' private medical insurance. We have our clinical systems managing their engagement with the clinics. We have our care services systems, which are managing things around inquiries for places like care homes. And we have our dental solutions managing booking dental appointments. Now, having those disparate systems means that we don't know where our customer really truly exists. And the strategy was about bringing that customer data together into what we call our single customer view. The next few slides I'm going to show are a bit of a technical view of how we've done that and what benefits that's given us, and the realization of those benefits for the business. It's also gave us, or one of the requirements was to give us an alternative platform for these legacy systems and to be more SaaS-based or cloud-first technology strategy. And that's really driven from the fact that these disparate systems that we have in Bupa were all generally built in-house by different IT teams, hosted on-premise across a number of our internal data centres. We're based in Staines, just outside London and Manchester, and we were using those 2 sites to host these applications. And unfortunately, about 4 years ago, because the Staines office is near the Thames, we had a lot of flooding, and we were about this far away from having to close the building down completely and invoke a complete disaster recovery strategy. So going to the cloud means we don't have to worry about that. So that then drove the decision around what platform can you use to support this strategy. And ideally, Microsoft Dynamics CRM does that for us. It puts our customer first, and we're allowed to then be more flexible at how we deliver our processes within that solution. So once you've got that strategy of the customer in the centre, with our single customer view and around our products, we have a lower cost for our IT strategy because we haven't now got these individual systems on hardware that we're having to maintain and keep the lights on. We're more agile. We work closely with the business to deliver the processes they want and not the processes that IT think they need. We have more operating flexibility. So CRM offers the on-premise, on-cloud. We're on cloud. We have mobility. We use tablet devices to allow our field agents to roam and do their job wherever they need to. And it's a simplification as well. So CRM has a lot of pre-built processes that you can tailor or configure to your needs, but ultimately it's driving a simpler view of those processes and a consistency across all of our different departments. We have 6 different sales departments and over 3,000 people in our call centres based across the UK. So, the first choice to align to our 3-pillar strategy was CRM, Microsoft Dynamics CRM. The next choice was that cloud-based first solution. So CRM Online allows us to, 1, deliver things quickly. we can spin up instances of CRM. We don't need to worry about buying any hardware infrastructure, network capability. All of those things are managed for us. It transfers that risk onto our data center. That risk being, as I mentioned, we could have been underwater 2 to 3 years ago. We don't need to worry about that. It's evergreen, it's a Microsoft strategy, and it's got that flexibility of being online or on-premise. And this next one is the key one for me. I work in IT. We have a business. In the middle, we have our change management and project management processes. But what CRM allows us to do is sort of bypass a lot of our change. If it's a big project and we need to manage the process change, that's fine, but we can work directly with our end users and our consumers of our services to build those processes they want through the agility that's provided by the platform. And obviously, uptime. We don't need to worry about disaster recovery. It's always there 24/7. This is it might be a bit hard to digest, but this is our ecosystem. As I mentioned earlier, we've gone from having lots of different back-end systems, all with bits of data about our customer and not knowing where those customers exist, in which systems, whether they're dealing with PMI, whether they're dealing with care homes, whether they're in a dental practice. We also integrate or have a lot of data from external applications. And our ecosystem brings that all together in what's called a master data management solution. And it's a clever bit of software that looks at different rules about all of our customer data from these individual systems and scores them and basically does an automatic match and merge process and chooses the best bits of data from each one of those applications to come together and give us what we call our golden record. We then, in the middle here, so the first part of the master data management solution brings that record together, and then we host that through CRM for all of our operational needs across sales, service and marketing, and for all our analytical needs, so producing real live data, analytics up to our board of directors and any data consumers that need it. So again, it's about the consumers on this side here, our sales and marketing, our call center, and on the next slide I'll go through and then some of the things we've delivered there. Our digital channel, which is about allowing the customer to self-serve themselves, and I'll give a few examples of that in the next slide as well. And as I said, our analytical side, giving our management information to all of those consumers. So, in the past 3 years, we've had a very big push on delivering a lot of processes in CRM to, one, switch off the lights on these old systems, but two, put that customer first rather than the product or the service area. Some of the first projects we saw benefits from, we deliver some clinical case management solutions around things like oncology support, mental health, cardiac, and that was really about enabling call centres to manage people's treatment and health benefits from their treatment. So the benefits there are we're able to have the first point of contact with the patient and track their appointments and interactions with Bupa to a successful, hopefully successful result, and understand the analytics around that. We've also delivered a complaints management process. So Bupa serves, across a 3,000 user call center, we get about 200 complaints a day. They are not very always complex complaints. They are things like registered dissatisfaction. But that complaints process used to take in excess of 30 minutes to process, having to be on a call with a customer, asking very detailed questions and actually traversing those many back-end applications all from the user's desktop to just try and service that complaint. We delivered that process in CRM using the standard case management functionality, and we've got that down to an 8-minute cycle. So that's a saving of about 20 minutes per call per user in our call centres. And we have actually now, so I didn't mention this, so there's about 200 people that are in our clinical care teams, and they use those solutions to deliver those clinical case management. We have about 1,500 users at this point in our call centres, and then we had about 150 salespeople using our corporate corporate sales process management pipeline, which was all about really understanding for the first time, because of that, siloed products, different salespeople managing different accounts in different systems. We never had one place, one version of the truth that delivered our win-loss tracking, our forecasting. All that now being in one place allows us to do that in CRM. So that was about 2 years ago. We delivered these. We've recently delivered and extended those models. We now deliver a complex case management solution, which is a more holistic view of the earlier clinical case management solutions. And we'll actually deliver that on a tablet so that a nurse in a care home can actually deliver that service directly to the patient. We have our unified service desk deployment, which is all about putting on the call center desktop a one-place access point to all the information they need. So again, going away from having 6 different windows open on a desktop, we now have one window open. If we need any information from other systems, Unified Service Desk allows us to link that golden record in CRM to these legacy desktop systems and automatically populate them with the right data in line with the context of the call you're on. It also allows us to monitor the calls, and we have actually reduced our wrap-up time to 0. So previously, our call centres would have had 6 applications open. They would have rekeyed the data in all of those systems. They even at some stages used Google as a knowledge base, which wasn't great. But now through Service Desk, we can surface all that in one go. And because it's monitoring the call, it's also getting rid of that wrap-up time. We've seen our call centre average call time reduce from over 10 minutes down to, or depending on the size of the process they're delivering, between 3 and 6 minutes. In our sales area, we've extended our processes out even further to more of our departmental sales teams. And that's really now because they're all using a single sales pipeline. We deliver our products, our clinical products, a dental appointment or PMI or other types of products. We're able now to do cross-sell and upsell for those people. So, we might be dealing with a corporate to sell PMI at a corporate level, but we're also talking to the individual who might be interested in some private dental insurance and deliver that service to them as well. So that's taken us now to about 2,500 online users. We are one of the largest CRM online users in Europe. And we're currently delivering, which finishes off that picture, the architectural diagram I showed you in the previous slide. Our single customer view, which is live now. We've got matched and merged 9.3 million customer or patient records within our CRM system. Truly, given that first time, we are now customer-centered and delivering processes that the customer needs. Our master data management solution, which enables that at the technical level, letting us understand that this person exists in this system and exists in this system, and giving us the best data view of across those disparate systems. And our portal offering, which allows us to have the customer self-serve themselves. One of the recent deliveries there was our pre-registration process, and this was for our Cromwell Hospital. And that allows basically the patient to make an appointment at the Cromwell. The previous paper-based process meant that when they arrived for their appointment, they had to queue up at the reception and talk through with the receptionist a paper-based form, given personal details maybe about what their visit or what their appointment was about. This was a 10, 12-minute process, and obviously you've got people backing up behind that as well, and therefore they can hear the conversation going on. So the pre-enrollment process was all about enabling, through our portal, the ability for a secure access to an electronic form to allow the patient to fill that in their own time, between the time they made the appointment and the time they arrive at the reception. They've completed that data, and we're prompting them as it gets closer to that appointment as well to make sure that they've supplied the data that we need to fulfill the service we're going to give them via the hospital. The other benefit of our single customer view means, again, because we're a private medical insurance company, in the UK, the way that works generally is you go to your local GP. Your GP will refer you to a private hospital, like the Cromwell. And in between there, you have to phone your medical insurance company and get a pre-authorization to go and get that treatment you need. That process, again, is delivered through CRM. So you'd ring the call center. They'll take you through quite a complex process. It was taking 15 to 20 minutes previously, and again, across a number of different systems. That process now can be as little as 1 minute, because you are asked, and the users are guided through the process, and therefore you can ask the right questions up front to make sure, to either give the pre-authorization straight away, or up to about 6 to 7 minutes to complete a full, more detailed pre-authorization process. But once that's done and attached to our customer golden record, it means then when you turn up for your appointment at wherever provider is servicing that appointment, you don't then have to ring through again to our call centre to try and find your authorization code because you've forgot the piece of paper. It's there for us on the receptionist desktop. And once we've done our data protection process, again, delivered through CRM, allows us to identify that we're talking to that person. You get that automatic view of the person's detail, their pre-authorization, their previous claims, etc. We're now at about 3,000 system users, and as I mentioned, 9.3 million customers and about 1 million organizations and providers, care providers, held in our solution. And we're looking to increase our user base by rolling the solutions out more for mobility into our hospitals, for our nurses and our dental practices. And that will give us a footprint of about 4,000 users. So that's our journey that we've been going through, and I've been managing for the last 3 years. It's been hard work, but it's been really enjoyable. I hope that was interesting and aligned to some of the issues and problems that you're probably facing yourselves about that transition between being product-centered to being customer-centered. Thank you.
I just want to check. Yeah, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Questions. Thank you.
First of all, you mentioned in your conceptual architecture synchronization and data integration between the Legis system that exists in Bupa UK
Yep.
and the CRM Online.
Yep.
Can you tell us about, in details, high-level details about how we manage this? Because we are talking about solutions that exist in data centers locally.
Yeah.
Program, while we are targeting CRM Online, because this is a typical scenario in government.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Because there is a kind of security regulations to host some information.
Absolutely. So
Just repeat the questions. I think they're recording.
So you wanted a bit more technical detail around how high-level technical detail. I can go techie if you want. About how we use our master data management solution to understand our customer and store that in the cloud. Yeah. So absolutely right. Our legacy systems are predominantly on-premise systems. The Azure platform allows us, through a technology called Cloud Connect, to pull and push data in and out of those back-end systems. So that's a bit of development work that we delivered. That process then allows us to onboard the data in mass initially, and then as a synchronization publish and subscribe model into the master data management solution, which is a product called Multiview. That applies the rules and chooses the best bits of data to merge the golden record, and also gives us referential integrity to the records back in those back-end systems. That's then for us to deliver it in a cloud way and securely. Yeah, so we're leveraging Microsoft's inbuilt security model. So we have certification access and secure HTTPS type connections to the data center. We also deliver a two-phase authentication to actually get into the application. We're basically synchronized with Active Directory and Office 365.
This kind of authentication, is it implemented within Bupa data centers, or is it something on cloud?
No, that's managed by CRM Online. Yeah, we don't do anything. So when you connect via when you connect to CRM from our internal network, you download a certificate, which means then you can take your device off the network and connect just across a normal internet connection. Equally, if you use the two-phased authentication, you're asked for a secondary level of detail. Yeah? But the first level, which most of our users use, is through their domain logon that they use to log on to the normal network. But because of the secured and certified connection that goes with your machine, you can then take that offline, and that's how we deliver our mobile, our field workers.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so just that, and then the internal to CRM, we're using the security model to deliver what we call our public and private member security. So public members are the general public, and anybody within Bupa can deal with a service for them. Our private members are Bupa employees, right? So no, I don't want other people seeing my claim history or whatever. Only certain teams are allowed to manage and deliver service to those types of customer groups. So it includes Bupa employees, other large organisations. It includes maybe the royal family, and so on. Yeah, VIPs. We always say David Beckham as one of our examples of the people that I don't know because I'm not allowed to see, but yeah, he's one of the examples.
Sorry, we'll use the mic this time. Thanks. Just speak.
Okay. Just last question. You mentioned that there are service providers. This supposed to be external entities away from Bupa. So did you integrate with any of existing service providers' systems, or all the legacy system is owned and moderated by Bupa?
Yeah. So again, Bupa have our own provider. In fact, part of it is implemented in CRM also. I didn't mention it there, but we have our provider contract management solution in CRM, which allows us to track the provider and make sure that they get paid and we get our bits off the back of it.
You are leading me to our next question.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then we also have off the back of that what we call our provider finder, which is our portal offering, which then allows a patient or a citizen to go, I need this treatment, I'm in London, where's my nearest provider? And then that leads on to how we then engage with them to get their pre-authorization and so on.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? I just have one that I'd like you just to discuss, if you don't mind, because I started to listen to some common themes. No, I was listening, but I started to hear, some common themes, because as I mentioned before, we're going as a company through a change, a new CEO, a new mission, and a sort of new technology base. And something that Satya, our CEO, it's not his quote, he was quoting somebody else. He made the comment that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And so there's a big focus in our company about culture, about how we're shifting the culture to meet the needs. And so we talk about the culture internally, we talk about a growth mindset, we talk about putting customers at the center.
Yep.
We talk about the one Microsoft coming together across. I was hearing very common themes when
Yep.
you were talking about your first slide. Can you just talk about with the new CEO, I mean, the CEO is not new, but when the CEO started with the 2020 vision, was there a culture focus as well? Because I suspect in many of your organizations, that's a big issue, right? It's not just the technological platform, and it's how you shift the culture. But if you could just touch on that, that might be of relevance.
Let me just go back to that first. Oh no, it's not working. No.
Oh, here it comes. Here it comes.
So as I said, mentioned, this slide isn't the actual disc, but it's called our 3, being the magic number again, is our 3-pillar strategy for our 2020 vision. And again, that's a very sort of snapshot of it, but ultimately every employee's objectives for their year are targeted around the 3-pillar strategy that is, you know, alluded to in that picture there.
Yeah.
So that's coming right from the CEO down to the call center person delivering, you know, on the end of a call, delivering a complaint process. So that.
And was there a change in compensation, a change in targets, or a change in terms of affecting the cultural change?
Yeah. So because it's aligned obviously to everybody's objectives, Bupa is not a publicly owned company, so all of the profits are fed back into the business. So everybody's very interested at the end of the year how we've done, and obviously that then has remuneration for the individuals. So everybody's effectively bonus is managed via those objectives that are aligned to the strategy. Okay. We have our vision everywhere, and our key sort of measures around passion and openness and enthusiasm and and everybody has an alignment to that strategy. It's everywhere. Yeah. So it's a sort of embedded in the culture of the company. One of the main differences from the technical one, not even technical, but from a user stand, is now it's not product-based conversation with the customer. Previously you'd phone in and want to make an appointment, but the first thing you would be asked is, what's your membership number? How many people are on your policy? So our data protection process was focused on the system that delivered the
customer experience.
The customer experience. Whereas now, because we've got that holistic view of the customer, the first thing we ask them is, what's your name? Yeah. Yeah. What's your postcode? And that's how we identify the person first. And that allows us then to drive down to, okay, how can I help you? And the script then delivers multiple services for them at one stop.
Okay. And just one final question. So you laid out the CEO's objectives, the implications for IT, and then the projects that you went through and the resultant impact. If you were to do anything differently, you know, looking back, I know you've only personally been involved in the last couple of years, but if you just look back, would you say, you know, we probably made a mistake here and we should, you know, this is the learning? But sometimes we learn from not success, right? We learn from the mistakes. So it'd be great if you could share some insight.
So it's not all been roses and sweet music.
I wasn't suggesting it was.
So I joined Bupa about 2 years ago. They were already a year into this journey. Yeah. We delivered through a number of different partners who weren't very linked up. So, you know, one of the things I would say is get a trusted partner if you're going to go down that route, and make sure you're using the platform correctly and not making pain for yourself by doing things that are called what we call unsupported customizations.
Right. Okay.
And use as much out of the box as possible, because the processes are there, you just need to configure them.
Great. Any final questions or comments?
Just a little one.
No, go ahead. One more, yeah.
Just one question. During the event, there was a stress on going mobile, going on cloud. You know, we are facing a great challenge with the government to convince them to go for CRM online.
Yes.
So how to change this culture, dealing with local government, if we're talking about small implementations, or dealing with the national government for a specific country, especially that we are facing that there are kind of regulations and concerns by law. that forbid us to go online for a specific implementation. And technically, if we want to make a major specification, it will be related to health industry in general and local administration.
Yeah, and so I'll take that one, and feel free to comment as well. But sorry,
this is for you.
Oh, okay. I'll take it. Don't worry. In terms of our experience, if we start with the technological discussion first, we inevitably land into all the blockers. That's my personal learning. So, in my engagement with governments, it's not about, hey, this cloud service or that cloud service or this mobile device, it's that mobile device. What we look for is what's the need of the customer. So typically when we've got a issue that a politician is wanting to solve or a senior government official needs to drive quickly, and if we can demonstrate that a cloud and mobile solution can do that from a time to market and cost effectively, we then work through all the blockers. That's my first learning that I would share. Start with the business need, because when we're talking to a business decision maker, a government decision maker, they worry less about the how, they worry about the outcome. We have to worry about the how, which I'll come to in a sec, but that's my first learning, if you don't mind me sharing it that way. But when we get to the blockers, the question then becomes, what's the use case? And so we've had situations across the region where you'd be surprised that certain organizations are using public cloud. And so I'll just jump around some industries to give you examples, and I'll talk about how we got there. So I'll start with criminal justice. So in criminal justice, we got certification in the US. It was something called CJIS. I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but Criminal Justice Information Security Standard, I think, is what it stands for. We did the certification, so that's the first thing. And then we started to work with different agencies across the region. We were successful with the Dutch Prosecution Service. So all the public prosecutors use Office 365 Public Cloud with initially Windows 8 based tablets, now moving to Windows 10. And that is a working system today. And then in the UK, the judicial system, so the magistrates and the judges from the Supreme Court down to the county level, so I think it's about 30,000 in the UK, are using Office 365, and again, the public cloud infrastructure. So we started with certification, and then we went for a use case scenario. The reason why I started there is in just about every country, transparency is important to the criminal justice system by its nature. And so trust is there. So that's one very specific example. Another example that's worth sharing is more of a technological example, is when we're working with the Azure services. So this is infrastructure and platform as a service. Anything to do with open data. So if it's a citizen-facing website or a information service provided to citizens and businesses, again, because by the data classification, it's public and open data, we get over the objection. And so that's another example. And I can keep on going through multiple industries, but my first lesson is start with the business need. The second is focus on the use case scenario. Because in defense, for example, we've got defense departments across the region using Office 365, but for specific use case scenarios within that defense. So again, it depends on the data classification in your country. Some countries have very formal data classification, and other countries have concern, let's put it that way. And the example I gave on CJIS, which is a certification for criminal justice, we've done the same for health. The standard there is called HIPAA, again, once in the US. And we've done the same in federal government called FedRAMP. So it's very US-centric what I've just said, but they're the three industry classifications that we've done from a data certification point of view. And then from a European point of view, we've been working with the data protection authorities, the DPAs, of all the European nation states. And we got something called, it's Article 29 Working Group. They work on data management practices. And we had what we call our EU Model Clause certification. So this is all our contractual efforts around how we manage data, what we do with data, and more importantly, what we don't do with data. So the simple answer to your question is we start with the business need. We do go through the certification process, and then we use real examples to make people feel more comfortable. Because sometimes people don't listen to me or trust me, but they listen to their peers, right? So they're the sort of things. And it's a journey. It's a journey. Thank you. Okay, so with that, I'm not getting a sense of any more questions or comments. So please, firstly, thank you for your time. Hopefully you found not only this 1 hour session, but also the last 3 days a good use of your time. We're conscious we're on the tail end of the day and the rooms are thinning as the planes are taking off, but we do appreciate your engagement, your feedback, and obviously your time. And of course, please join me in thanking Ian again for sharing his story of Bupa. So thank you very much.
Thank you.